This is Swiss and Chips, your British guide to Switzerland. Hello and welcome to Swiss and Chips. I'm Jo Fay.
And I'm Simon Sried.
And today is part 2 of our mini-series about becoming Swiss. And today it's all about getting the right information.
Yes.
Because that's basically the one major thing that seems to be involved in becoming Swiss.
Exactly.
Knowing what to do at the right time.
Yeah, and you can already feel Jo will have to talk a lot today because I have a tiny bit of a cold.
And also you're already Swiss.
Yes.
So two problems there.
Yeah, that means you will have to speak.
Good, because I am ready.
So let me know, what is part 2 and what are we going to talk about in detail?
Well, basically, after 10 years in Switzerland, you can apply to become Swiss if you want to. And my 10-year anniversary will be next year.
Yep.
So the past couple of months, I started looking into what I need and what's required to become Swiss because I want to do it.
Yep.
And I looked up the details in Bern, and it turned out that there was an information evening for people who want to become Swiss.
Which we visited.
Which we went to go and see. We did, exactly. Yep. So that was a few days ago, and it was a pretty, how could I describe it? Interesting, unusual, strange evening.
Yeah, it was, good summary, yes. It was interesting in every way, yeah.
So we're basically going to talk about what the evening was like, some new information that I found out that I didn't know before. We'll tell you what you can do in advance of the 10-year mark and what you can't do.
Yep.
And finally, the very important questions of roughly how much it will cost and how long it will take.
Yes, and what the funny parts were.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So the evening itself, well...
How did it start and where did it take place?
It was at the Bern administrative offices in the centre of town, basically.
And how do I find out where and when these information evenings are?
Well, I put a link to the evening in Bern anyway. I can only speak about Bern because there are obviously differences depending on where you live in the country.
Yeah, that was already a very interesting part in the opening. She said, so if you're not in the Gemeinde of Bern, which means...
it's like the local community where you live.
So if you're only outside of Bern, then this can be completely different for you. So leave now, basically.
And a couple of people put their coats on and made slightly grumpy remarks and then left the room.
So that's already quite interesting. So it's not only in the different cantons, it can vary a lot. It's also just in the different small Gemeindes, it can be completely different. So you definitely have to make sure that you get the information from where you live. Exactly,
yeah. So look up the details on the website of the place where you live, first of all.
Yeah.
So back to our evening. We went into the administrative building, which is where you get your permits and things like that. So I've been there before. Up to the 4th floor, found the room, and we were bang on time, of course, slightly early. Very important, I thought, for the Swiss evening.
Yes.
And there were already quite a few people there. I think there were about 30, 40 people who were there that evening. And there were 2 ladies there who work for the Gemeinde of Bern. And they said, basically, we'll take you through all the requirements this evening. And every stage you can ask questions. But before they said this, the very first most important question was in Swiss German.
Is that okay in Swiss German?
Yeah. The woman said, is it okay if we do this evening in Swiss German? Silence.
And
Silence
everyone
in the
looked
room.
at each other and thought like,
oh God, no.
Are we allowed to say something? Or?
And I thought, please don't do it in Swiss German because I really came for precise information. But I thought, no way I'm going to be the only person in this room who says that. And then luckily, someone sitting behind me, who I happen to know, said, yes, please, hi German.
And,
hi German.
And she was like, anyone else? Looked around.
Everyone was like, oh. And she went, right then, just one. Well, then I'll do it in High German. But no, it turned out she was very nice in the end, this lady. Yeah,
that was a bit surprising beginning,
it
was
a
harsh
bumpy
beginning.
Start.
But anyway.
So, basically...
and it was the information for the normal Einbürgerung, not if you're married or something like that.
Exactly,
so, also that you just look up exactly what you want and what you need and before you go to any random information, because quite a few people left when she said that.
Yeah. So if you're married to a Swiss, for example, you'll be able to get the
erleichterte Einbürgerung, the simplified
citizenship. So a couple of people left at that point. And then it was down to the nitty-gritty, we could say. The lady started going through the slides and explaining the process. And it was at this point that I found out some things that I didn't know before. So good thing we went. And
which were?
I had heard, I think becoming Swiss involves a lot of hearsay at first, anyhow. You know, you speak to so many people about how it was for them and what you should do and what it was like in this place and so on and so on.
Yes.
But because it's different from place to place and because the rules changed a bit at the beginning of 2018, I think things are pretty different. I had been told you can start applying before the 10-year mark.
Yeah.
But very important fact that I left this evening was you can't. Great. Good to know. But there are some things that you can start doing before the 10-year mark so that you're really ready on your 10-year day.
You can collect some stuff beforehand. Do you know, can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I mean, basically there's a whole list of documents that you need and evidence of this and that, but you should really check that out for the place you live. You'll find it on your local website.
It's basically, how good is your German? What do you know about Switzerland in case you went to school in Switzerland?
Yeah, the thing is, the language requirements are now the same everywhere. And it's you have to have the A2 level in written German and the B1 level in spoken German.
Yes.
And so, I mean, if you're not at the 10-year mark yet, it's a good time to start either learning or improving your German.
It can vary a tiny bit. For example, if you came from Germany, if you went to school in Germany, then that's fine. Then you just have to prove that you went to school in Germany.
Yeah.
Or if you went to school in Switzerland for 5 years, I think, then you have to prove with your Zeugnisse, with your...
You have to get some kind of proof from the school that you attended school in Switzerland.
Exactly.
Yeah, so there's a lot of specifics here. And there were many questions about this on the evening.
Loads of questions. There were maybe like 5 or 6 slides and that took 1.5 hours to go through. Just so many questions. Everyone had questions for every slide.
Yeah, they did. Anyway.
So speaking part,
speaking part. The other thing that you can do is check out what are the residency requirements. And I would say do this years in advance because, for example...
That's a very important point.
Yeah, in Bern, you need to have lived 3 of the last 5 years in the place where you're applying and the last 2 years before you apply in the Gemeinde of Bern, if that's where you're applying.
So you can't move just a tiny bit outside of the Gemeinde.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm glad I knew that in advance.
But you can move within your Gemeinde.
Yes.
Okay.
You can. The other thing that you need nowadays is a C permit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's important to know in advance.
When you have to live in Switzerland for 10 years with the B or C permit, and the day you apply, you have to have a C permit.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can also have a B permit for 9 years and 364 days, and then 1 day C permit, and then go and apply. That's also fine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Good. And the other thing is, if you've lived in a different canton before you're applying to become Swiss, you need to get a proof of residency that you still live in this canton and for how long.
Yes.
So that you can do advance.
Yes.
And a funny thing we found out on that evening was that people living in Basel seem to be having
Basel
a particular...
City, I think,
Basel City have a particular problem getting the detailed information from their canton.
Yes.
Lots of people are moaning about it. So I'd say if you live there, start doing that now.
Yes, and the women working in Bern at the office, they said, we already know about Basel, so come early so we have time to arrange everything, basically.
Sounds like a bit of a riff going on there.
Yeah, and this obviously is quite a lot of things you have to do. And did they also, can you remember how long it takes? What did they say?
Yeah, well... This they explained, which I thought was quite interesting, that citizenship is threefold in Switzerland. It's about the Gemeinde, the local community where you live, I think.
Yes.
Basically, the sort of city, local place where you live, the canton, and the federal level.
Exactly.
And so your process goes through these 3 parts.
Exactly, yes.
Which is pretty interesting and explains partly why it takes so long and why it costs so much money.
Yeah, how much money does it cost?
Ooh, this was another interesting part. There's costs at each level and you'll get different bills at different times as your application processes.
Mm-hmm.
I added up all the different costs and basically it will cost you more if your case is more complicated.
Yes.
If they have to do a lot of research and find stuff out.
Because on the Gemeinde, it's based on the time they need. And then the other levels are just...
set fees.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. So it looks like it will cost approximately 3,000 francs.
Yes.
All in all.
That is not doesn't include the language schools and so on.
Oh, yeah,
obviously.
true, yeah.
So.
Doesn't include the language test. And it looks like it will take roughly 2.5 years from when I apply.
Very good.
So that's a little bit longer than I imagined.
Probably after like 12.5 years, it's basically the earliest stage you could have a Swiss passport.
Seems like, yeah, but who knows? Maybe if you're super organised, it could be quicker. But they said roughly 2.5 years.
Yes.
Such a long time, don't you think?
I don't know. A long time, yes.
I had this idea that I could have all my documents ready and go along on my 10-year anniversary.
Like 2 months
Here
later.
I am. I'm ready to become Swiss. And they'd say, brilliant, sit and wait for the letter.
Yeah. I think that's one thing we learned, that it's a long process. And it's also, has to be fair, when I heard all these different questions, it also shows a bit how difficult it is. And it's so many different possibilities and varieties which they have to clarify first. Is it possible if you live there for 2 years and then 2 years here and then you moved abroad for 2 weeks and then come back and you have a child and you have a husband, but then you're getting divorced and so on and so on.
Oh my God,
so on.
what a nightmare.
It's extremely complicated, and they have to clarify for each separate person. So it just takes a long time, yes.
Yeah.
Don't really want to defend it, but it at least it became clear that it's extremely a complicated process at the moment.
Yeah, certainly is. What they also have in Bern is they have a counter at their office where you can go and ask questions about your application.
I think that's everywhere in each Gemeinde they have it.
Yeah, and they said, whenever you come to our counter to ask a question, bring your permit with you, otherwise they won't talk to you.
Yes, bring everything you have. Basically.
Bring your proof.
They also said bring everything once you want to ask. So for how is it going and so on. Bring your certificate, bring your residence permits and everything. So otherwise they can't really tell you exactly what your case is.
Exactly, yeah. So that's...
Like we said at the beginning, this is specifically for Bern, but what would you say is your general impression, or what would you advise someone in Switzerland living here for like 9, 10, 11 years and want to become Swiss? How is the procedure, or what advice would you give?
I would just say first step is look it up online and read all the information you can.
Yes.
And
that's a good advice.
That's it, really. See what documents you already have, find out the things that you will have to kind of look for or apply for, start applying for them, and then find out where you can get more detailed information, because for sure there will be some particular questions you have that someone will need to answer, I think.
And my advice would be do that, and then also the people at the Gemeinde, just pop by and ask them about your special case and what exactly is needed and when you can do what and so on. They were, at least here in Bern, and I think that's on many places the case, that they were really patient and explained extremely detailed for everyone and took their time and really tried to help.
Yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah, it's not like a test that they don't want you to become Swiss. They want to make it easy for you, but it's just a complicated process, but they are there to help, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, so overall I left with a pretty good impression. The people seem nice, and it seems complicated, but...
manageable.
Hopefully, but get back to me in 3 years. Good. So I guess our next episode probably won't be for a little while about becoming Swiss anyway, because we're going to put all of these Becoming Swiss episodes together into a sort of mini-series. And right now I need to apply for the confirmation of when I lived in a different canton. And once I have that, I basically just have to wait until the 10 years day.
Yeah, so which is in a year.
So if you're listening to this, our next episode will be in a little while.
Yes. Next episode about that topic, at least.
Normal Swiss and Chips podcast, business as usual.
Yes. And speaking of which, don't forget to join our Facebook group. It's called Switzerland for English Speakers.
Yes, it is.
Join in. There's very interesting conversations going on, and they give us loads of ideas for upcoming topics we want to talk about. And it would be nice to hear from you. What do you think, or what do you expect, or what do you wish?
Yeah, and there's all sorts of people in there, new people to Switzerland, people who've lived here for ages. A sort of super interesting question about a week ago. It was someone asking what's the difference between kind of punctuation in French and Swiss French. And I thought, I have absolutely no idea that there was even a difference, but someone was able to answer that question.
Yeah, that's great.
That's how awesome our group is.
Okay.
Cool, so thanks for listening, and we'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.